So I just happened to find Stan. He was in the lobby by himself checking in. No handlers, no anybody's around him. It was just Stan. And I went up to him. Stan remembered me and said, "Hey, get the sign." Yeah, no problem. So that was a great moment, just to get that sign by Stan. And again, it was just think about Stan, say like the last 15 years, as far as how whenever you go to shows, there's always people around him. He's got his handlers. Everybody, kind of just making sure he gets to where he's going to go. But not in that case. He was just there by himself. And then later at the convention, I was meeting Mark Bagley there, who was drawing Amazing Spider-Man at that time, and I was buying some artwork off of Mark. So we met at the Marvel booth, and we're sitting on the carpet much like this. And I'm sitting there, and I got the pages, and I'm going through, and I'm thinking, yeah, I want this page. I'm going to pass on this page. Mark's sitting next to me, and at one point, you can kind of at times sense that somebody's like watching you, or if you're kind of down, like somebody's like standing over you. And I got the artwork, and I'm like looking at this page, and I look up, and I see Stan Lee there. He's got two other guys from the Wizard World convention with him, and I'm looking up. I'm like, "Hey Stan, how you doing?" Casual. That's just Stan Lee. And I go back to looking at the artwork, and I hear Stan. He's like, "He's looking at Mark Bagley's artwork. He's one of our artists." And Stan's just like laughing and just shaking his head and just walks off. And to me, that's just a Stan Lee story that's just so funny because I just look at Stan like it's nothing, and he kind of just he's like, "Oh, he's looking at artwork like it's like no big deal." And that was the type of man that Stan was. If anybody ever had got a chance to meet Stan maybe a little bit more on a personal level rather than in the in the line where it's like keep the line moving, where you're just signing the moving. People are like, "Oh, I met so and so." It's like, yeah, you met him, but did you really meet him? Having that personal time to kind of connect. Much like when I met Stan and John Romita at that Capital City Sales Conference, that we had this moment and talking about the story about the amazing 44 and 45. And, I'm sure it's stories like that those guys also themselves just relish hearing too, rather than just somebody just come up and say, "Well, Spider-Man's my favorite hero." Okay, why is he your favorite hero? What makes Spider-Man your favorite hero? To have a story that you can tell behind it is because of this here. This is what's changed my life by reading this issue or watching this cartoon or whatever the case might be. And going back to kind of circling around a little bit, going back to the Death of Superman, the shop. Of course, I was around back then, and again, like I said, it was quite busy. And it's a day that I'm never going to forget. I don't know if you were there on that day or not, man. I can't remember. That was such a crazy
mass
day.
Hysteria. Yeah.
That was a mass hysteria day. Dick Berry was there, and he's just like waiting because we're waiting on our comics to show up, and they're not showing up. And my employee Chad Clark, he's manning the phone, and the phone would be ringing, and he'd be like, "JC's Comics Stop. Superman dies at 4," and he'd keep changing it. Superman dies at 5, and Dick's there because he's like, are the comics going to be here in time? Because he wanted to do a story live for 6 o'clock. And luckily, the comics did show up in time for that. But we got the comics counted out, and got them put on the tables, and everybody's just like, they're just, they just can't wait. I'm like, you got the Superman's counted. They're like, no, I got to count out everything. And we had comics, like I said, on the table here. And one of my customers, he was a very large man, and there was a young child that was in front of him, and he's standing there and he can't wait. And we got the comics all counted out and everything. Everything was ready to go. And as I put the last comic out, I'm like, "All right, comics are ready for sale." And the crowd kind of like lunged, and that small child that was there was like getting crushed between the rather large customer and the table. And I remember he's like "Ah!" And I'm like pulling him out from underneath. And I think about that kid from day to day, which he's no longer a kid. And I just wonder, you know, if he happened to walk into the store, I'm sure he remembers that day too. But that was long before, you know, camera phones and stuff like that. And it's really too bad not to have. That wasn't you, was it, Logan? No, I would not have been born. No. Well, then it wasn't you. We got that established. All right. You know, the #1 rule as far as if you're doing anything bad, have an airtight alibi.
Ask the lawyer right here.
Yes. Wouldn't that be it? Wouldn't that be the...
No comment.
No. Then that means it.
And we want to open it up to the floor
Yeah.
for questions and comments too, because we know that other folks might have some questions in terms of possibly opening their own store or the process of purchasing the comics and or other aspects of selling the comics. Any kind of questions or comments? Yes.
You have a question about, like a general one, about how has your business changed as sort of comics has declined in terms of readership, but trades has expanded, kids comics have gone massive, and also how does merchandising fit in the mix? Like how is your picture looking now as opposed to in the 90s? Which is a huge question, obviously.
Actually, the 90s were, even when the market crashed in the 90s, the market in the 90s was much, much healthier than what it was now, because obviously you didn't have stuff online and stuff. So that was certainly much, much better. But as the market changes, you have to evolve. And again, you know, what maybe was selling at one time, like statues, like I said, at one point there was customers, I had like 4 customers that I knew that a certain statue, I could put them down. These days, it's something to where people don't have as much disposable income, and the statues have got much more costly. So you have to kind of gauge that. And there's stuff that, say, Spider-Man or Harley Quinn or Deadpool or whatever the case might be, that 5-10 years ago, yes, I would have bought those statues without a doubt. Now it's a little bit more, you got to be a little bit more selective. Now there's something that, or if something comes out unique like this here, Spider-Man in medieval armor, okay, this is different enough to where, okay, this might have a niche. Somebody might think that's you know, that's different, that's cool. Okay, that's not your usual, you know, Spider-Man item. So this makes this unique. So this is a little bit different. But as far as like the comics go, again, as people's tastes change, if the trades are selling, then you start pushing those. And again, the trades are great to suggest to people coming in that, again, they're not interested in paying $200 for this issue they want to read. A $40 trade that has that issue in it, that's good enough for them. I've got a friend over in the Netherlands, has a shop in Amsterdam called Hank's Comics and Manga. If you ever get the chance to go to Amsterdam, go to Hank's Comics and Manga. It's like my shop except over there. And they got a lot more manga than I do. And Hank has, I think I have Pops. I think I've got Pop figures in my store. It's like Crocodile Dundee. Oh, you think that's a knife, this is a knife. Oh, you think you have Pops? Here's Pops. His Pops put mine to shame. But seeing people over there, I had a chance to go to a Dutch Comic Con in June in Utrecht, Holland, the Dutch Comic Con. If you ever get a chance to go to that too. There's going to be one in November. And I took some of my comics over there to sell. Hank was gracious enough to let me put some of my comics up there. I certainly thank him, Alfred, Tim, and the rest of the Sharon and the rest of his crew treat me with the utmost respect. And I can't say enough about them, Micah, and just great people. But I was over there thinking that I'm going to take high-grade books that the collectors over there are going to be interested in. Well, over there, they might want an Amazing Spider-Man 129, but they don't want to pay 2,500 euros for it. They want a copy. This thing could be beat up, it could be water damaged. Over there, what they look at is something that evokes those memories, that gives them those good feelings. That's what they want. They're not concerned so much about the condition. I don't know, did I answer your question, or did I just kind of just...
Sure, no, that was a good one, man.
Sometimes as I tell our friends, we'll be talking, and we'll seem to be on a highway as we're talking. And then we kind of get off on this country road, and then we're kind of on this dirt road, and then we kind of work our way back onto the highway again.
Do you get more kids in the store since Scholastic and Bowen and everything? Has that changed?
Not.
No? Okay.
You know, and it's disappointing. So every time a parent comes in, maybe their kid is interested, it's very encouraging. It's very nice because I can see myself a little bit. You know, I can't imagine if there was comic shops when I was a kid. My dad would probably still be trying to get me out of there.
Good one. Rudy, you had a question.
I have a question. So my son loves Spider-Man toys, figurines, remote control cars, whatever. What distinguishes what you get at Target and what you get at a comic book store? Is it just
In most cases, it's the same merchandise. Now, there's cases where, say, Target, Walmart, Meijer, that they'll get an exclusive that are sold just through those stores rather than being available in mass market. And it's really too bad because stores like that, I don't think they can do a good enough job actually selling the product because you have the speculators that will wait around, or they know somebody that works at, say, at Target, and they'll have the box in the back and they'll take them, and they don't buy enough for their stores. You know, if you got this exclusive, man, you should be selling the hell out of it. There should be, you know, there should be no reason why you should not have copies there. I mean, if I had some of those exclusives, yes, it's like printing money. So that's, but for the most part, say, this Spider-Gwen figure, if this is at Target, this is the same figure I'm selling.
Good question. Yeah, we got a couple questions. Green, then yes.
So, aside from, you started your discussion with spin-offs.
Yes.
Aside from sells, don't sell.
Well, they sell, but they don't sell anywhere near what the original.
Okay. But my question is, your personal opinion, given that you grew up on comic books,
Mm-hmm.
Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
Right.
Now all of a sudden Miles Morales is Spider-Man.
Right.
How do you feel having, you know, die-hard Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and all of a sudden that has changed? Is that...
You mean when they first introduced Miles, or?
Well, as far as, you know, as far as now all of a sudden it's a different character. The character has changed.
The characters changed. I like Miles a lot more than when he originally came out. Brian Michael Bendis created this character, but essentially he was the same as Peter Parker. When the book came out, I told customers that I could read you dialogue from Peter Parker Spider-Man and Miles Morales dialogue, and you would not be able to tell the difference. He was writing Miles as Peter Parker, but how he is now, he's kind of become his own identity. I wish that they would give him his own name. That way he has his own identity. I think in the animated series, he's got, I'm not sure what he's called in the animated series. I think he has a different name in that there. But Miles is somebody that, I think he has a lot of potential, but I don't think Marvel really fully takes advantage of it. I don't think they really know how to capitalize on that. They think by just having Miles being Black Hispanic, that's good enough. That's all we did. We did good enough. Much like when the movies come out, there's nothing that the studios do to promote the shops themselves. We never get any promotion from the shops themselves. I think that, well, we made you a $200 million movie on this comic character, that's good enough. No, you need to still draw people into the shops, because there's still people that get coming to the shops. Oh, I didn't know comics are still even being published, because you don't find comics in drugstores or carryouts or grocery stores like it was when I was a kid. There'd be all the times I'd get my parents, stop here, they've got comics. And then I'd be in there for maybe like 5 minutes or so, and my mom would be yelling at me from the end of the aisle, "We're leaving now." And I never once thought to call her up, "You're not going to leave me, I'm 9 years old. You're not going to," it's like, "I want to get going, What happens? My parents leave you." But I think some of these characters, they don't think outside the box. If that's an answer to your question.
Good one. Yes, in the back there.
You mentioned some stuff about the variant covers from Spider-Man 1 from 1990. What are your thoughts on variant covers now as a retailer?
On variant covers now, it's like trying to kill a mosquito with an atomic bomb. It's an overkill. They need to take their foot, especially Marvel, they need to take their foot off the gas of the variant covers. It's just too much. There was a point where people did try to collect all the covers. That's not the case anymore. They might collect the A cover or a couple covers and maybe one or two of the other covers. But if there's a new, because Marvel likes to stop and start comics all the time, and that there is, as far as selling comics, that is that's something that I'm sure infuriates myself as other retailers, because they say that when they start a new number one, they stop the comic and start it over at number one. It's a new jumping on point. Well, it is, but it's a jumping off point too that they don't address. That some of these comics throughout the years, as they keep restarting them, the number ones always sell less and less and less. Because as comic collectors, we're creatures of habit. If I've got issue number 596 and you cancel it there, and there's no 597, the next issue's number one, do I need to buy that number one? Because it's not 597. My collection is over with now at this point. But you keep those numbers going, I'm going to all likelihood keep buying that series because I have to. But as far as variants, yeah, there's way too many variants. I mean, you got 1 in 25, 1 in 50s. What those mean, 1 in 50 means for every 50 copies of this particular comic, whether or not, and there might be 3 different covers, and they'll count all 3 covers. But for every 50 copies that I purchase, then I am eligible to buy one of the 1 in 50s. So if I buy 49, I don't get a 1 in 50. But there's 1 in 50s, 1 in 100s. There's even 1 in 2000s. And at one point, those are rare. You go on eBay and look at 1 in 2000 or 1 in 1000s. They're not selling as much as what they used to because they don't hold their value. You know, it's kind of this inflated. This is going to be worth a lot, but how do you know it hasn't proven itself? And it comes out and it doesn't hold its value, and then.
Good one, good one. Other questions or comments? Yes.
So I've been in comic book stores around the world as a rocket scientist, from rat holes to pristine. What's the optimum size of a store, and how do you rotate your stock?
The optimum size of my store, or my store? My store is about I think about 2,500 square feet. And as far as you're talking about somebody opening the shop, what size that should be?
Yeah, I mean, what size? I mean, I've always heard like 2,500 is a good size for a shop, but
I think it all depends on the person and as far as where the market you're at. If you're in a larger city, you might want a larger spot. Of course, depends on what the cost of rent is too. You know, what can you afford for
that's the
that?
optimization, yeah.
As far as rotating stock, you know, that's an answer that only the person starting that. I mean, there's no one set correct answer for that. Whatever you feel like. There's comics in my store that I still have out at cover price for probably 5 years now, because I know once I bag those comics and put them into my red bins, the chance of me selling those comics drops substantially. As long as it's out there and they can see it on the stands, they might pick it up. When it's in red bins like that, you have to be looking for it to find that.
Good question. Any other questions or comments for our speaker?
Yeah,
Yes, sorry.
It's actually a 3-part question. Number one, what kind of impact has social media played on your business? Number 2, who's your favorite Spider-Man artist? And number 3, who's your favorite Spider-Man villain?
Oh God, can you make it more difficult? Why don't you ask me what the lottery ticket numbers are tonight? Social media, you know, you can't say that it hasn't had an impact on, you know, my business, just like with any business. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, can you do too much? You know, which medium's going to work the best? It's kind of hard to tell, but it's a matter of just getting your name out there. I've got an Instagram page that I don't post enough because it just takes so much time to try to post on all this stuff. I've got a YouTube channel which works well for me, and then the Facebook page. But I've got somebody that was in the store in the last couple of weeks. I need to wait for them to come back again to try to get them, kind of put them here. I'm going to have you kind of run my Instagram page. You know, let me know. I can tell you what kind of tags and stuff. But if you want to upload pictures, and we'll use this here to try and get that going. So I'm in there a little bit more often. That way, you know, you need to be in the people's eye. Because if you're not in the people's eye, they forget you. As far as my favorite Spider-Man artist, I think that'd have to be Frank Robbins, right, Tim?
Right.
No. You'll probably have to be John Romita, because John, who I first started reading, and he was the artist. Gil Kane, when John was inking Gil Kane, much like in the Death of Gwen Stacy and Death of the Goblin and the drug issues, that John's inks worked so well with Gil's pencils, but Ross Andrew holds a real special place in my heart too, because just in the 70s when I started getting the subscription, that Ross when Ross first started working on Amazing Spider-Man, I didn't like his style quite so much, but then he came into his own, and he became somebody I really liked. And his backgrounds, his New York City escapes, nobody can touch Ross. Maybe George Perez could touch it. You know, Mark Bagley, I like Mark stuff. I like Eric Larson stuff. Todd McFarlane stuff. I know a lot of people are a fan of Todd McFarlane. Todd to me was just a little bit too sloppy. And as far as my favorite villain, probably it'd have to be Doc Ock. You know, although the Shocker, the Lizard, you know, well, it all depends. Depends on who's in that issue. But you know, I love the Shocker, love Electro, Mysterio. You know, they got the fishbowl in his head, sure. But the Spidey's Rogue Gallery. You know, I'll fight anybody. It's better than Batman. Sorry, had to say it. Spidey's is better than Batman. So that's a fact.
So real quick here, and just for folks who might be from the area who haven't visited Jim's store, and/or folks who might be driving up to the Detroit airport, and so on, maybe real quick, store days, hours, and location.
Open 7 days a week. I'm off of exit 13 off of 475 West Central and McCord in the St. James Plaza. Open Sundays noon till 5, Mondays, Tuesdays noon till 7, Wednesdays new comic day, so it'd be 11 till 8, noon till 8 on Friday, Thursday and Friday, 11 till 7 on Saturday, but not today because I'm going to be getting there late today, so if you're waiting there, you might be, he's late again. But that's it, 7 days a week, and I do have a big sale that's starting tomorrow too. We got flyers back there, we got flyers up here, and it's something that I get people from around the country, from out of the country that stop at my store. They're just amazed by it. There was a guy by the name of Randy Green that he was from Philadelphia, worked at Amalgam Comics and Coffee Shop there. Unfortunately, they're no longer there. It was the first comic shop owned by a black woman, and it was successful, but unfortunately the pandemic kind of did them in. But Randy worked for him, and he sings in a band called Gangsta Grass. So if you get a chance, certainly check them out. But he was in my store a few years ago, and he's like walking around and paid me a compliment. It's like, this is probably about the 3rd best store I've ever been in. And a guy from Philadelphia said that.
And really, his store is JC's Comics and More. It is a pop culture superstore, so it is absolutely amazing. Maybe you can speak to Jim after, and again, Jim will stick around. He's got a number of materials out. I do want to just let folks know, gosh, we're so thrilled by the immense